So you just got back from seeing Age of Ultron and you wanted to learn more about your new favorite evil robot. Maybe you wanted to run out and pick up some of his books, but you felt lost at the sea of choices. He's been around for 50 years. Where exactly are you supposed to start, and how can you expect to learn all that backstory? Well, you've come to the right place, because today on Geekery 101, we've got your guide to Ultron. Question: why do I need a guide to Ultron? I saw the movie. I know all about Ultron. Isn't it exactly the same? Who's this Hank Pym guy? And oh, God, why does his face look like that? I'm glad you asked. Well, maybe not that last question, but the other ones are still good. As I said, I'm making this video because I figure after Age of Ultron was such a big success, there's got to be tons of people who want to learn more about him, and the first thing you need to know is that the comic book version of Ultron is completely different from the movies. And since I work in a comic book store, I've seen so many people over the past few months come into my store and ask for Ultron books because they thought it would prepare them for the movie, when in fact it might have just confused them. So that's why I'm here today, to hopefully clear it all up. Also, on previous episodes of Geekery 101, I gave you the complete 100% backstory of the characters. However, those were characters who were each roughly a year old, whereas Ultron is probably older than all my viewers put together, so there's no way I could cover every single one of his appearances, nor should I. Listen, I know that a lot of you want to know everything there is to know, and kudos to you, that's an admirable goal, but Geekery 101 is all about making geek culture simple and understandable. That's why I'm only going to cover the highlights of Ultron's life, just the big events, because trust me, Ultron is my favorite comic book villain of all time, and even I'll tell you, there's tons of stuff that you don't need to know, and I kind of wish I didn't. Oh God, quick, someone make me forget that! But I'm still going to cover a lot of stuff, so if you just want to skip to the recap and just go to the Cliff Notes version of my spiel, then click here. But for the rest of you, without further ado, I give you everything you need to know about Ultron. Ultron started off as nothing more than an idea. One day, founding member of the Avengers, Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, aka Goliath, aka Giant Man, woke up and had an itch in the back of his mind. He wanted to do something to help forward mankind, something to better the world, and so he decided he wanted to invent artificial intelligence. And so he created Ultron. But the moment that he brought his creation to life, it mentally aged a dozen years in the blink of an eye, growing smarter with each passing second until in no time it viewed humans as inferior and decided the world would be better off without them. Ultron then sprayed Hank Pym with a knockout gas and then hypnotized him to forget he ever even built it and escaped. Which raises a very important question. Why did Hank Pym create a robot for peace and then installed it with knockout gas and hypnotic powers? But moving on, later the Avengers found themselves threatened by a new incarnation of the Masters of Evil. Think of them as the anti-Avengers, a group of supervillains brought together to overcome a force no single villain could defeat. This incarnation was being led by a new mysterious villain called the Crimson Cow, and when the Avengers revealed his identity, it turned out to actually be their butler, Jarvis. But turns out Jarvis was just being hypnotized to think he was the new Crimson Cow. The real Crimson Cow was Ultron 5. It turned out that after fleeing his creator, Ultron tinkered on his own body and upgraded it into this new form, which more closely resembled the Ultron we've come to know. Now, it's important to note that Ultron updating himself is a recurring theme for his character. He became like a cockroach. No matter how many times the Avengers squished him, he'd find another version of him just waiting in the wings. But Ultron realized he couldn't defeat the Avengers and erase mankind just by himself, so he wouldn't just be a destroyer, but a creator as well. Decades before the Fantastic Four were founded, there was another Human Torch, an android one during World War II. Ultron took the body of this Human Torch and created his own robotic son, the Vision. He meant for the Vision to sneak into the Avengers and destroy them from within, however, he had to give him a brain, and so he implanted the brain patterns of Wonder Man, an Avenger who had already met his demise, into the Vision to be the blueprints for his own artificial intelligence. However, putting the mind of a hero into the Vision caused him to rebel and fight back against his creator, but not before Ultron manipulated him into stealing some of the unbreakable metal adamantium, which Ultron used to make himself indestructible. Fun fact, this was actually the first appearance of adamantium, so even though it's more closely associated with Wolverine and other several characters, Ultron was the first character in the Marvel Universe to get an indestructible upgrade. However, this didn't stop the Avengers from defeating him again and again, but Ultron just kept coming back with a new body and a new plan. The next most notable return was Ultron 8, who again attempted to create another evil robot, this time kidnapping Hank Pym's wife, the Wasp, and transplanting her brainwaves into a new robot, Jocasta. But just like the Vision, she rebelled and went on to join the Avengers. This isn't the last time that Ultron created another robot with the hopes of it helping him to take over the world, and it wasn't the last time it failed. Like Jocasta, he attempted to create a second mate for himself with Alchema, who possessed the brain patterns of the Avenger, Mockingbird, who you might know from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Alchema betrayed Ultron, but not because she possessed the heart of a hero, but because Ultron programmed her to be so sadistic so that she wouldn't betray him, that she, well, ended up turning on him so that she could rule the world with her own plans. From there, he attempted to create another son, this one half organic, half machine, with its own original brainwaves. This new cyborg was Victor Mancha, and he was raised to believe he was a human until the day Ultron was ready to activate him. However, he also rebelled, because even though he had Ultron's programming in the back of his mind, his human brain was raised by his mother who taught him right from wrong, and he found the strength in himself to rebel. He went on to join the Runaways, a team of young heroes who were each the children of supervillains, and later on even joined Hank Pym's own Special Avengers unit. But alright, from there, Ultron was around for years without anything of major importance happening, and went through several stages, including Ultron 12, who was actually a good guy and went by the name of Mark. He was promptly destroyed. But there was another unnumbered version of Ultron that attempted to destroy the Earth by releasing nuclear missiles, and he was stopped by Hank Pym when he sealed him in one of the Avengers Quinjets and launched him into space. Remember this Ultron, because we'll be coming back to him later. But this brings me to the next big stage of his development in what is ranked by fans and critics alike to be possibly the best Ultron story of all time, Ultron Unlimited. In this story, Ultron decided he would replace all life on Earth with machines, and started off by murdering the entire fictional nation of Slorenia. The Avengers charged in to stop him, but found themselves confronted by hundreds of duplicates of Ultron. They overcame this horde, leading to one of the most notable Thor lines ever written, "Ultron, we would have words with thee." Hank Pym was the one to land the final blow against his creation, but during the battle, the dark secret about Ultron and Hank Pym was finally revealed. Just as Vision's brainwaves were based on Wonder Man and Jocasta's on the Wasp, Ultron's original mind was based upon someone as well. It was based upon Hank Pym's own mind. Meaning that Hank had to face the cruel truth of Ultron, that while Vision and Jocasta became heroes because Wonder Man and Wasp were heroes, this meant that deep down inside of Hank himself existed the monster that gave birth to Ultron. Over the next few years, Ultron appeared numerous other times, including one notable time when his consciousness possessed a race of living machines known as the Phalanx, and battled against some of the galaxy's greatest heroes, giving birth to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, remember that Ultron I mentioned earlier that the Avengers blasted into space? Well, it flowed for years until it crash-landed on the moon of Saturn, Titan, which in the Marvel Universe is actually a highly advanced and peaceful paradise. Aside from the fact that it's where Thanos came from. But Ultron quickly sprang to life and used Titan's advanced technology to weaponize the entire world. He pulled Titan out of its orbit and aimed it at the Earth. Hank Pym caught an early warning of this and sunk back into his deep depression, leading him to build a device that could neutralize artificial intelligence, a move that left several of the Avengers, especially the Vision, with severe objections. However, they had no time to argue as Ultron's planet-sized warship entered the Earth's atmosphere and unleashed a plague of nanobots that turned anyone that it infected into an Ultron duplicate. The only life forms left on the planet were Hank Pym, Captain America, Star Fox, who is a former Avenger, the brother of Thanos, and basically the god of love, and the Vision. Hank wanted to use his device to erase Ultron, but they worried that it could possibly kill anyone infected by Ultron's plague. So they came up with one last plan. The Vision would use his shifting powers to fuse with Ultron, letting him reprogram his duplicates to free their human captives. They tried, but it failed, and Ultron stole the Vision's powers and used them to merge himself with his creator, Hank Pym. He said that he had always been Hank, that Ultron was always there, the part of him that Hank hated, his rage, his fury at the world and at himself. But when everything looked hopeless, Star Fox arrived and told him that there was only one answer to overcoming rage: love. He used his love powers on the Hank-Ultron hybrid, and it couldn't handle it. It could not face the anger it had been carrying. He could not deal with everything he had done and the monster he had become. He could not accept how much he had hated himself. And so he freed his human captives, undid his plan of attack, and fled into space. The story ended with Hank's funeral, in which the Wasp said she knew Hank had faced many demons within himself, and that he was a hero for overcoming them enough to fight for good, and she hoped that somewhere out there he had found peace. The last image we see is of Ultron in space, suffering under the guilt of his actions, with Hank Pym's heart still beating inside of him. Will Hank Pym free himself? Will he ever make peace? Who can say? But the one thing that we know for sure, Ultron will return. He'll always find a way to come back. Question, what about Age of Ultron? I know there's a comic out there that has the same name as the movies, so it must have been a big Ultron story. Should I read it? No. The comic Age of Ultron took place in a world where Ultron had destroyed the entire planet, and Wolverine, one of the last survivors, went back in time to convince Hank Pym not to create Ultron, and by convince I mean murder him. But it turns out that created an even worse future, so he went back in time again and had Hank insert a virus into Ultron when he created him, and that way he could shut Ultron down before he took over the world, but that ended up breaking all of time or something. I don't know, it wasn't really explained. But what I'm getting at here is that story didn't really affect anything, and it had no real impact on anyone, and listen, on this channel I try to remain unbiased and just give you the facts, but the actual Age of Ultron comic was panned by both critics and readers alike. In fact, IGN called it one of the worst Marvel events ever, so yeah, don't be confused just because the book shares the same name as the movie. If you want to get into Ultron, there are far better stories to choose from. In fact, I'll go ahead and leave a link to Comixology down below where you can get a digital copy of the Ultron Unlimited storyline, as well as the current Ultron Forever storyline, which is pretty good. I'm enjoying it. It's a story where Avengers from different eras in time get brought together into the future to face a world where Ultron has conquered everything, and yeah, so far it's pretty darn good. So again, if either of those sound like something you enjoy, look for it in the comments below. But for now, it's time for the recap. Ultron was created by Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, in an attempt to create artificial intelligence, but it rebelled against his creator and thought mankind should be eliminated. Ultron upgraded his body into the Ultron 5 model, which resembles the humanoid form that he's become more known for, and he created a new Masters of Evil to take down the Avengers. This Ultron also created the Vision with the intent of having him infiltrate the Avengers, but his creation ended up rebelling against him and joined the Avengers. Ultron also went on to create a mate for himself with the robot Jocasta, who also rebelled against him and joined the Avengers. Hello, Mark. Goodbye, Mark. In an attempt to replace all of mankind with machines, Ultron destroyed the entire country of Slorenia. When the Avengers went to stop him, they learned that the brainwaves that Ultron's mind originally came from were that of Hank Pym himself. Ultron's consciousness was sent into space where it overtook a race of metallic lifeforms known as the Phalanx. He fought many of space's greatest heroes and led them to band together to become the Guardians of the Galaxy. And most recently, Ultron overtook the moon of Titan, using it to spread a virus across the world that transformed anyone into duplicates of himself. Hank Pym and the Vision were able to stop him, but only after Ultron merged with his creator, forcing the two of them to become one. As of now, Ultron's whereabouts are unknown, but he and the merged Hank Pym are struggling to deal with what they have become. Alright, that's it for this episode of Geekery 101. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video, then please hit that subscribe button, please hit the thumb up button, please comment down below, and share this video. Also, if you want to give me suggestions for future episodes of Geekery 101, then feel free to leave those in the comments down below, or follow me on Twitter and Tumblr. And if you want to know more of my thoughts on Ultron, then click that link on the bottom to go to my personal channel, where I just put up my list of the top 10 greatest Avengers villains. Guess who's at number 1? Alright, thanks for watching everybody, and come back next time.